if you believe you have a close relationship with a deity, with a God, with spirituality, I think this is actually a healthy thing that I finally started getting angry with him. I finally started being real in my prayers.
Okay, Bryce, I've known you for 20 years. We've gotten in trouble from the police together. We've gotten kicked out of class together many times. I mean, there's probably things I shouldn't talk about. Some involved
Sure.
dynamite from Tijuana,
Yes.
but that's all in the past now.
Yeah.
Now you're a chaplain in the armed forces.
Yeah.
Delivering,
United States Navy.
Yeah, the United States, and you're delivering like heavy news to people.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah. One of the things chaplains do and what I do routinely, it's at least once a week, twice a week, it just depends, is one of our jobs is to deliver really, really challenging news, the worst news that you can deliver, and that is of a family member's death, right? Or a loved one's death, brother, sister, girlfriend, mom, dad, these types of things. And it's a huge responsibility for me, but also it's something that not a lot of people know how to navigate well, myself included. Even though I'm put into this position, we're here to give comfort and help them through this. Basically, to weep with them, cry with them, and make sure they know they got spiritual counselors, comfort, and they can talk with us in a very honest way. And there's no ramifications. They're not going to lose their job. I mean, it's more of just a time to mourn with somebody. So let me give you an example of this. I was out with a destroyer, a ship that the taxpayers of America pay for, out in the South China Sea. And I was with this awesome crew. There's about 300, a little more than 300 of us on this ship, and I'm a chaplain. You know, I'm in charge of the spiritual well-being of the Marines and sailors on that ship. And I get a message that comes in regarding it's called an AMCROSS message. Basically, it gives you some information about what's happened to a particular sailor's Marine's loved one. And in this particular circumstance, it was this young sailor's father had passed away, had died. And these are never fun conversations to have. And usually when you have this type of conversation, especially if you're not deployed, the particular sailor or Marine can go home, go to the funeral, and take some time off with their family and loved ones to mourn the loss of their mom or dad or grandma, grandpa, or wife, child, you name it. But in this particular circumstance, that was most likely not going to happen because this particular individual is what's called a SAR swimmer. And he's vital to the mission because if somebody goes overboard, he's the one who jumps in and saves their life. And without this particular swimmer, you can't deploy. You can't have a ship out there. You need this individual. And so there was two prongs to this particular conversation. One, I have to deliver the message that his dad died. And the second part of that message was to basically convey, like, we're not sure if you can get off the ship. We're not sure if you can go home to the funeral and to be with your family. And naturally, very nervous. He comes into my stateroom where we meet. We have counselings, and I deliver the message. And each message is never easy. There's different responses to it. And this big, strong swimmer just wept like a child. He's in his early 20s, and we were hugging each other, holding each other, and we were there. He was just talking and going through that, trying to process it. And after about an hour of him just venting and crying and being angry and all kinds of emotions, then I delivered the message that we're not sure if you can go home because you're a SAR swimmer. And he he started punching things. He was right, very, very challenging, difficult thing. And my heart still breaks retelling this story for this particular young man who's just serving his country, who's just being a good kid and trying to do what's right. And he's one of the unfortunate ones on a ship who can't get flown out or may not be able to get flown out. And we're out in the South China Sea in certain areas, that we can't just simply go to an airport, right? We can't and pick up another swimmer. So really challenging. We spent basically the rest of that day and into the night. I was just making sure he was okay, and obviously he wasn't. But we prayed together. He believed in God. Wasn't necessarily an active participant in prayer and those, but it's all we could do, and that's part of my job. And it's very challenging. It's very sad, but it's so important that someone like a chaplain is there for them. And in these circumstances, whether people want to admit it or not, to have a spiritual counselor there, to have somebody who grieves with you, who also believes that, you'll see your dad again, and not that you relay that information to him in those moments. But we were praying together. We were able to stay in contact, and he's still doing all right. But at the same time, it's traumatizing for a young man.
What else?
So that's
what else does your job entail? I mean, you deliver bad news, you give spiritual guidance. There's got to be more.
I do counseling, premarital counseling. I perform weddings for Marines and sailors. I bake cookies. I build morale. I create systems and programs to suicidal ideations. Right. Chaplains have 100% confidentiality. So we're kind of like the first line of something showed up in their life. If they want to get something off their chest, like a priest or a bishop in the Mormon community, and we have 100% confidentiality, and then we navigate it. Okay, I can guide you maybe to a mental health specialist who works for the Marines or the Navy, right? And I can, if you want me to help you get access to a lawyer or whatever it might be that you need. And I'm there to help them through that process of their challenges, their troubles, their struggles. And every day it's a new thing.
Bryce, you have a very weighty job. This is high stakes stuff. And I've known you for so many years. We've been friends since junior high. And you're one of the goofiest, silliest, like no responsibility, like no consequence, no responsibility people I've ever known, which is one of the things I love about you. So to see you now at we're 40 years old, now you're a chaplain in the armed forces, like, so it's like such a mantle you have and such a responsibility. But you haven't been a chaplain that long.
No, it's been 3 years.
3 years. And that's what I want to talk about, your journey to becoming that, because it's a wild one, full of like so many diversions and like unknowns. Let's start with that. So we're in our early 20s. We're both like off missions. We're like 21. I'm waiting tables and teaching piano lessons. What are you doing at that point?
Yeah, I'm starting college at the esteemed institution of higher learning at Utah Valley University.
At that time, UVSC?
UVSC. It was UVSC at that time. And working like you, I was working at a multi-level marketing company that basically sells snake oil. I won't say the company, but I was doing German because I speak German because of my mission. I went to Germany. I was doing German customer service for them and working 35 hours a week, going to school full time. I was in a rock band that I formed with Elaine Bradley from Neon Trees. And rock band. We had a cool little 3-piece indie rock outfit. And you were in the music scene too, and just concerts, writing, trying to get good grades in college with working full time. I mean, just grinding it out, living in a little townhouse with some roommates and my brother, and just living life, not sleeping much, and having a good time. Challenging, but a good time.
There's a few Halo games that went very long.
Yeah. Halo 2, 5 TVs together, all kinds of, just good times.
Yeah, good times. Okay, so you're in a job that's not going to be your career. What did you want to do at this point?
At that point, I legitimately wanted to be a rock star, and not necessarily star, more of, I love writing music. You know this about me, Eric. You and I, were our first rock band together, and so we were dead serious about this, and I was going to get a degree in history because I enjoy philosophy, religion. I enjoy history. I like reading and analyzing and all kinds of stuff. But I honestly had no clue what to do. I just, like a good American boy, thought college is the right thing to do, and I was living that. But at the same time, my plan, legitimately, this was my plan in my head: either I'd be a rock star, or I go to. I was thinking about also going to Bali when I graduated to just learn how to surf and just leave. And just, that was like the plan. It was either music or Bali. That sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was, I don't have a very goal set. I didn't know what to do. I had no idea, really. And maybe be a teacher, because I like teaching. And
I think you and I, like in high school, we loved high school so much. We both wanted to be high school teachers. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
That was like kind of floating around somewhere. But yeah.
Okay. So moving along, the big thing is you tried out to be a seminary teacher.
Yes. At that point.
And your dad was a legendary seminary teacher. He taught me and all of our friends, and you seemed like a shoo-in.
Sure.
Yeah. Tell that part.
At the same time, I applied to the seminary program for the church, for Mormon church. I can't say the full name, Mormon church. And it's rigorous. It's 2 years. If you got to make the cut every 6 months. And then I went and, I was fortunate enough to make like the last thing. And I was teaching at Spanish Fork High School. And I thought, and at this time, sadly, my band broke up. And the reason the band broke up was because of me. I thought, you know what? I just got married, and also, I was like going to try to tell God, like, I'm all in with this. I'm all in with the seminary teaching, and going to try to provide for my family to be, and so heartbreaking. Like for me, again, I don't think people recognize, oh yeah, you had to break up with your band, but no, we were dead serious. Like we were touring, we were, this was my life.
Yeah, you were good.
And so much passion, everything infused into it. And then I put that passion into the students at Spanish Fork High School, the seminary program, and I loved it. I loved teaching. I loved being with them, and I thought I was a done deal. I thought, oh, sweet, I'm gonna get a call saying, hey, we need you at Timpview High School in Provo, or in Idaho, or that's usually how it works. And the principal of the seminary at the Spanish Fork High was calling Salt Lake saying, oh, I want him to work here. He's amazing. And all these nice things being said, and parents giving you hugs and things. Thank you. And there was really beauty in being with those young teenagers. And me, I like to laugh. I have a lot of crazy stories. I'm not a perfect person. I'm not a perfect kid. And maybe that turned against me with maybe what the church at that time was looking for in the mold. I think maybe we laughed too much. Again, you don't know why people choose what they choose, or the leaders or whoever is making those decisions. But got that phone call like, oh, sweet. Yeah, but the phone call was, yeah, we don't want you. Sorry.
And that was after 2 years, right? 2 years of like
almost 3 years.
Almost,
because you got to teach for a year at a high school. And So I lost my rock band and I lost seminary.
How are you feeling at this point?
Oh, absolutely devastated. There's no better way to put it. Here I am, two things I fell in love with, and then just the powers that be, meaning human beings, said no. Said that sorry, but thanks for your service and good luck finding something else.
When this happened in our friend group, I remember us all feeling devastated. It was such a huge loss because we thought this was going to be your thing and you'd put so much into it. And we were all shocked and sad for you. So yeah, I can't imagine how you were feeling. What do you do at this point? You're married. Do you have a child yet at this?
Yeah. No. Beth, let's see. Yes, I think we just had our son Smith, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And tell me about Smith. Tell me about Smith real quick.
Yeah, I have a son who has severe special needs. He can't walk. He can't talk. We change his diapers. We feed him. We bathe him. We brush his teeth. He's 14 now. But yeah, he has Angelman syndrome, a rare genetic disorder. And so that was very devastating news, knowing that, hey, I mean, he was pretty newborn, but well, at least 6 months or so. And we knew something was off, but we weren't sure at that time. So basically, no insurance, no nothing. You're on your own now, and you have a child that isn't progressing at all.
Mm.
And it's just me and Beth with our little son, and no job, no, do we go to the hospital or do we not go to the hospital? Do we go get these tests or do we not go get these tests? Things like that. Or how are we going to do this?
Okay, so, what do you do next?
Well, I'm a pretty hardworking human, so I chose, look, I didn't have a teaching credential in Utah. I didn't go the teaching route, and I just got a history degree with minored in philosophy, and no one wants a philosopher. What are you going to ask questions at a firm? What's your job? So I just I applied to private schools that didn't require teaching credentials, and next to the Mount Timberwolves Taylor, there's a school called American Heritage, and I applied there. They had a job opening for a high school basketball coach, and I was a really good. Well, I was if I was a good basketball player, I played high school basketball, and I love coaching. I was coaching my brother's junior jazz teams and things like that, and they needed a varsity coach, and I applied to it, and attached to that coaching gig was a fourth grade teacher, and I'm like, hey, there's no way they're going to hire. Look at me, I don't know how to teach fourth. I can't. But sure enough, they hired me as a fourth grade teacher and the varsity basketball coach, and I spent 3 years teaching fourth graders and coaching varsity basketball, and I adored coaching basketball. And I love those fourth grade kids. Hardest job I've ever had in my life in terms of the weight that's put on. I got to teach 5 different subjects, and there's all these kids in the divorce hat. It's just this chaos, and I loved those kids. I really believe I don't know how to discipline people, Eric. I mean, come on now.
No.
How can I, knowing my life?
No.
I don't. But again,
you encourage nonsense wherever you go.
Yeah, that was. But just about 2 years into it, I'm like, this isn't the right space for me, place. But I don't know what to do. I'll just stick with it maybe and see what happens. So that's where I was at that point.
How long does that last?
3 years.
Okay, then what happens?
Well, I was mentally bored. I was not feeling like I was the right person for these kids in a way. I'm not and my brother Mike just went, and he went to a university, Heidelberg University, a master's program out there. And I was thinking about doing a master's, just primarily to maybe make a little bit more money as a teacher, or have, some maybe different opportunities to think about that. And then I started really thinking about academia. Okay, I'm going to go get a master's. I applied to Harvard. I applied to Edinburgh in Scotland, and I applied to Heidelberg University in Germany. and was blessed enough to get into Edinburgh and Scotland and then Heidelberg. But Harvard, I mean, no, but all three of these schools are amazing. The reason why I think on a certain level that United States or like a school like Harvard, they required GRE. My GRE score wasn't that good. Whereas these great European institutions, they don't require, a test. They're more interested in the full package. And I told, I think, a pretty good story about being a Mormon, rock band, like liberal arts world, philosophy. Like this works. And I think that's one of the reasons I was able to get into Heidelberg University, got a master's degree there. Then I was blessed enough to do a PhD as well out there and just grinded that out. And that took 6 years.
You had some tough. I remember like calling you on the phone. You had some tough times there.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Tell me about those.
Well, again, at this point, we now had, when we get to Germany, Beth's pregnant with our second child, and she has the baby out in Germany. And Germany, which I love, they only let you work 10 hours a week or you lose your student visa, because they're interested in how your mind is. And they chose you to think and study and be with them and work with them in that university. And so there were many days and months and where the bank account was really, really low. And somebody like you, Eric, you and I, we're really good musicians, and we played for audiences, and I couldn't work really. But there were people playing on the street who, be it homeless or good musicians, you just pick your poison there. But some days, every once in a while, I'd go out there with my guitar and I'd open it up and I'd sing songs so we could feed our family, and so we could have that week's bread. And very humbling. I never wanted to do it. It was, oh, cool, you got to play it. It's not fun playing. It's basically you're begging for money with a guitar. That's what it is. And that skill set, I guess, fed my family, which is nice for those weeks. And sometimes, so those were very challenging. And then also coupled with my wife Beth, she got sick, some autoimmune disease showed up really strange. Not sure why. There was something, adverse reaction to mold or something. And some days she could get out of bed and some days she couldn't. And so I'm doing a PhD. I'm teaching early morning seminary. 4 years, playing guitar on the street sometimes, doing my PhD, and with these two beautiful kids. Yeah.
Your PhD was in religion too. Like what do you
religious studies? Yeah.
Like what's your career path? Because
exactly.
I mean, we think we have to be in our careers by like 24 or something. And you're
sure.
How old are you at this point? 30 or something?
I'm in my early 30s. Yeah.
Early 30s. You're playing guitar on the street for euros. You have 2 kids. Your wife's sick. I mean, this sounds so ridiculous. It's like
I'm the wrong guy to marry, right?
I was like, what are you doing? I'd call you like, Bryce, just come back. What are you doing? Like, you're doing a PhD in theology. And like, are you struggling with your faith? Are you mad at God? Like, do you feel like you're forgotten? Like, what are you feeling? Because this is like a really hard time.
I think with the God question, I'm somebody who, the problem with having a lot of passion and having a personality that wants to choose something that they really feel deeply about is you're not really thinking about, like getting a house or I wanted those things or how are we going to pay bills. It's more of, we're going on this journey and I'm on this quest for, I don't know what really. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, maybe a professor if I could. That was kind of the end goal. Once I got into my PhD, I thought, you know what, I would love to just think and write and teach young minds theology, religious studies. But again, those jobs are few and far between, very difficult to come by. You didn't know it at the time. Like you're in a PhD program, like, oh yeah, I'll get my PhD. And then next thing you know, these universities will say, please teach us with all your wisdom. And you don't know at the time, but a lot of the universities don't have a lot of funding for these programs at their universities. And so they can't just hire 50 religion professors like the business school or the law school or the school of medicines at the universities, right? Like you're fighting for your life in those departments to get money from people. But you don't know that. You just go in it blindly and say, I'm passionate about this. I had a project that I just had a book that recently just got published through that project with a great university press. But there's no money. There's no money in, please come and tell us about Jesus when you come home, or tell us about Islam, or yes, please debate with us on if existence is real, or neo-atheism, or the new, right? I lose friends at parties. I joke about this, right?
Yeah, I'm about to leave right now.
yeah, exactly. I go like even at church, they love, or I'll go into like a new social setting where, you got a PhD? I'm like, yeah. Like, you're a doctor? Like, yeah, sure, I'm a doctor. And like, oh, so what'd you study? Like, what was it? Like surgery, or, I go, no, like religion and religious studies. And I try to get excited about it, and their eyes just kind of like, okay. Why would you do this? Like, there's this kind of malaise that appears on their face. They're interested, like, especially older people, now that they've lived their lives, like, oh, please sit with me for like 10 hours. And then at the end, it's like, so how do you like make money? Like, I don't know.
Great question.
But that was my point is, at that time, I wasn't really thinking, if I had a lot of faith challenges, but I was more of like, look, I like doing this, and whether or not God wants me to do this, I'm not going to ask him. Whether or not that's good or bad, I'm not so much interested in that at that time. It's more of, I'm good at this. I really was. And I felt this is something I should do. It made no sense for a family, at least financially. But at the end of the day, selfishly, on a certain level, I could say that might be a selfish way to approach it. I was going to do it, and I was going to finish it, and I was going to prove to myself, to God, to my family, whoever, who basically thought I was just some idiot, which I kind of still am, that I could do something very challenging. And we got to live in Europe for 6 years, so we got to live in Heidelberg, magical city. Goethe called it, he said he lost his heart in Heidelberg. So at the same time, all these challenges, but you look out the window and you say, wow, I get to be here, and it's kind of intoxicating and addicting. And maybe that's why I wasn't really asking those questions. Maybe I was working my butt off and didn't sleep much, like always. And yeah.
That's cool. I want to dig a little deeper on the idea of doing what God wants or not. Do you feel that you didn't know if God wanted you to do that, but did you think he didn't want you to do that? Because there's a difference. Because I believe that he wants us to be proactive and explore and be curious.
Yes.
And I notice in my life that he doesn't really tell me what to do, but if I'm doing the wrong thing or going down the wrong path, I can kind of like sense that it's wrong. Did you ever?
Absolutely.
Did you get that? Or did you? Okay.
The only thing that showed up during those times was fear. And what I mean by that is fear of not being able to feed my family. But yet, the problem with being a believer is, if you actually read the historical texts and all the philosophers and the Bible and the Book of Mormon and doctrine, they don't seem to be, like, Jesus doesn't seem to care so much about what's in your bank account in 20 years. And so I was getting cultural mixed messages, right? So it's like, you got to be the Mitt Romney Mormon. Like, hey, and he's amazing. Like, look, that's a great way to think in an American context, right? I'm going to be this businessman. I'm going to provide for my family. I'm going to stay true to my wife. I'm going to have these awesome boys, and I'm going to, amazing. But then when you read, the New Testament, and Jesus is telling you, think not of what you shall eat or what you shall drink. It shall be provided for. That consider the lily of the. And so I'm taking this very seriously. Like, I'm not really I'm cherry picking from Jesus's words about, and that made me on fire. Like, look, it seems like I'm okay scripturally on this. I am being proactive. I am being a decent person in the community. I am giving my time, energies, and talents. We're feeding the missionaries with no money. I don't know why we even did that looking back. I'm teaching early morning seminary for 4 years, and I was the primary chorister and a primary teacher. So you're doing that, and then you're giving 10% of the income I didn't have. I don't know, right? You're just kind of doing what God asks you to do, or what the church asks you to do. And I'm trying to be a good dad. I'm taking, I just carrying Smith up 6 flights of stairs because he can't walk into our little apartment in the old city, and making sure, I'm just doing what I would argue God asked me to do. And the only thing that showed up was, I would argue, the contrary side of the fear showed up about money. And to me personally, I'm very thankful that I didn't get focused too much on that. I think I may have quit or given up and said, you know what, I'll take some, maybe consulting job with a firm who might want some stock market manager who thinks differently about money. Right? There's different ways I could use my degree to choose certain jobs, which I don't fault anybody for doing that. But someone who, like me, who loves music, who's passionate, it's almost like I'm cherry picking from Jesus, from Socrates, from Muhammad, from Rumi, from great Turkish philosophers, and I'm saying they're telling me that what I'm doing is beautiful, and you're expanding your mind and heart, and you're having all these opportunities to think with all these brilliant people from all over the world who think similarly to you, or don't seem to care about the material, like a car or a house, or it's very intoxicating. And so I, again, whether I was right or wrong, I was picking the words I wanted to pick, like any other good religious person does, whether they want to admit it or not. They are a buffet. They choose. It's like Golden Corral. Which text, which word from Paul or Jesus or Muhammad am I going to take to? And I was absorbing the ones that had nothing to do with money, had nothing to do with live in this moment right now, and Jesus will provide.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, I've definitely had my concerns and sleepless nights with money, and those scriptures of like, what man can take a thought and like be taller than he is. Like, it's stop thinking, stop worrying, be in the present. I mean, that truly is like gospel goodness and truth. To like, that's where you find happiness, right? Like, you like, whenever I talked to you when you were in Heidelberg, you seemed super happy, even though it was like really hard.
Yeah,
you were experiencing joy. You were a joyful person, still are. So let's go forward. You come back with a degree. You're now Dr. Taylor, and we're all like laughing because you're a doctor in theology.
Yeah.
You come back to Utah, and then what do you do? Like, do you feel like you're gonna like conquer the world now that you're a doctor?
No, the problem. Okay, so as I'm getting my PhD and being able to speak at Oxford and all these universities, but it doesn't mean you're going to get a job. But I still had 2 kids, and my wife, and then I get a call out of the blue from Elaine, in a way, like, hey, let's do music again, or and I was applying to hundreds of jobs in academia, and nothing was taking, and which is normal, very normal for a liberal arts, religious studies, philosophy, history, English. Just a warning for those of you who might want to be professors out there, which I don't know if they're going to listen to what you're doing. It's probably normal humans. There aren't a lot of jobs out there. So I was applying like crazy, and just, again, music intoxicated me. The thought of, and at the same time, BYU was letting me teach adjunctly, like as a part-time professor. They were, and they like almost like any university, they have like a hiring committee. They try to find scholars or individuals that maybe we'll think about having them teach here. Let's get them. We'll pay them pennies to teach classes we don't want to teach. Like intro to religion, or right, like 600 people in the class type stuff, right? And we all do this. This is just part of the gig, right? Those who want to do academia, this is what it looks like.
How old are you at this point?
30. Let's see, 35.
Okay.
34, 35.
Yeah.
So again, teaching at BYU and doing music, one of our projects, right, with you, and then also the old band, that old itch showed up again. I don't think that I didn't say the B word. I said itch. But if I did, please keep that. Don't bleep it out. I don't know what your restrictions are on your podcast.
I'm gonna loop that part.
Okay. But yeah, and then Elaine and I and our bass player Chris started writing music again. So teaching at BYU, I was teaching for this English school at 3 a.m. in Hong Kong, like online, trying to make ends meet that way with BYU, and then at the same time writing music and touring again, and wrote 2 albums and touring, hoping, thousands of job applications being sent out everywhere, and just praying and hoping. And yeah, that's where I was at that time.
You didn't have very many offers. I mean, you were just an adjunct professor.
Yeah, well, I right, but I got 4 or 5 interviews, like Skype interview or the things of that nature, and nothing.
Okay, so it seems like another dead end. Then what do you do?
Yes. Well, luckily, on a certain level, I started saying, I think reality hit me. Look, just apply to other types of gigs. If you see like a job for, I don't know, private school administrator or something, because you got a PhD, use that to your advantage. Maybe you can frame a good resume or BS basically on these things about how skilled you are at managing people, or right, whatever. And this job for a little this guy, I don't want to use names just in case I say something they may not approve of, but he was creating a school, and they were looking for somebody to basically teach and create this school with him. And I applied to this gig just like other jobs, right? And sure enough, I got an interview there, and he in particular fell in love with me. Like, my whole story, the music, the eclectic, like PhD all over the world, spoke at Oxford and Paris and Harvard, and like he just loved the story of me. And I think that's what sold him. Was like, I like this guy. I like that we're going to be very creative with our school and with it, right? He'll be able to, and he's not afraid of, which I'm not. I love, we did. And anyway, they hired me to do this. And for just 1 year, I did that. And then in the evenings though, I still was scratching that itch of academia. So I would still teach for BYU or UVU or SLIC, Salt Lake Community Colleges, in the evening, to make ends meet as well. Even though I was making good money with him, there's, to even have a house these days. And with our special needs son, Beth really couldn't work. So it's right. She needed to be home for him and emergencies and all kinds of stuff. So we had to make that choice early on. Like, dang, this sucks, but one of us will probably have to stay home,
Did you feel like this was going to be it, or were you fulfilled here? I'm wondering, like, in your career trajectory, did you feel like this is the answer to prayers? This is some stability, like I've landed, or did you still feel lost?
No, I still felt lost. I still felt like this was a temporary fix for maybe a larger problem. But at this point, I could care less. It was one of those, I finally had been humbled enough, I'll put it in those terms, to say those dreams that I had, so to speak, or I just call them economic dreams or job dreams or whatever you want to call it. They're not showing up. At the same time, Noble Bodies, my rock band, some things happened there out of our control, just family things with different things that we had to break that up in a way, even though we still write music, still play together when we have the time, and still love each other. And but certain life circumstances with other individuals in our band. So yeah, totally lost. But at the same time, doing what most Americans do is, I got a job, and whether I love it or not, who cares?
Like, how do you feel about, how do you feel about like direction and inspiration from God? Like, do you think he cares about your career at this point? Like, do you feel like he gave up on you? I'm just curious, because you're a very religious person, but how did you keep that relationship, or did it change?
it shifted, and there were moments where, especially during when I had kind of given up on the professor, not given up, that's the wrong phrase, but I was a professor, I was teaching, but like an actual full-time gig. My relationship with God at that point was, I pray, I'm doing my duty. That's it. Right. I will always do my duty. And here's something that I would say to God sometimes, which when I was in low moments, and even when I didn't get the BYU professor job and other jobs, I was very angry, and I feel this is very normal. If you have a close, or if you believe you have a close relationship with a deity, with a God, with spirituality, I think this is actually a healthy thing, that I finally started getting angry with him. I finally started being real in my prayers or in my meditations. There's one phrase in particular I remember. Said it while I was crying one night, and Beth doesn't. No one knew that. I'm just kind of doing this on my own sometimes, trying to process this. And I was riding my. I have a road bike, and I like to ride up the canyon in Provo and Hobble Creek in those areas when I could. And I got up on the. I'm like, God, I am so freaking pissed off. And I didn't use those words, by the way. I don't really like what I'm doing. I love my wife. Beth loves me, and again, but I was acknowledging I'm pissed off. I'm a human being, and I just remember crying, saying, I will never leave you, and I feel like I'm in a freaking dysfunctional relationship, and whether or not it's fair or not, I don't know if you care. But that's how I feel, and I'll keep praying. I'll keep praying. I'll keep paying my tithing. I'll keep serving my neighbors. Who I am, and that my personality will never leave you. I'm loyal to a fault. I'm patient to a fault. I've heard that from multiple people, that you're too patient, you're too loyal. So yeah, I'm mad, and then I rode my bike home. And then I went back to work the next day. And that I'm my normal cheery self, and I'm making these students laugh, and I'm appeasing whatever, and I'm changing Smith's, poop in the bathtub, because he likes to poop in the bathtub sometimes, and you're just doing your stuff. You're just doing your normal life and trying to hold it together a little bit, but so I did my duty. Almost like a kid on the farm who's got to milk the cows at 3 a.m, and he hates his life,
Mm-hmm.
So that was my relationship for, I'd say, probably about a year.
Yeah. And you're in your mid-30s, almost 40, and you see a job for chaplain?
Well,
or what?
Well, interesting. I had a TA at Brigham Young University, and she was doing the ROTC program. And I remember after my bachelor's degree, when I was thinking about seminary and not getting seminary, I did a project where I interviewed a bunch of women who fought in Afghanistan and Iraq. I did oral interviews with them. I would tape them, and I had all these questions, and I wrote a paper about them. And I remember at that moment thinking, I would love, this is when I was 24, or 25. I would love maybe to help these people, but I can't fight. I have no passion for guns and like, let's go fight the red dragon of China. Like, I don't, but I felt like I would love to help in a way that I think I could. So this shows up, then that thought just goes immediately away with the rest of my life that we've discussed, right? Mm-hmm. But she goes, and I go, yeah, I kind of remember wanting to be a chaplain. She goes, well, why did you not? Why didn't you apply, or why didn't you try? And I go, I don't know. And I just looked it up, and it snowballed from there. And I applied just for fun, because I'd applied to a million jobs. What's another job? Mm-hmm. And they're a little more rigorous than some of the other gigs that you're going to apply to, as I came to find out. But yeah, I applied and did the whole thing, and I had to go get, the church needs to sponsor me, and so they had me go through a psychological evaluation, the bishop, the stake president. I don't know who your audience is. That's like your priest and cardinal, so to speak, if you're thinking Catholicism, has to approve you, which just lie through those interviews is what I did. No, I'm just kidding. They're like, oh, cool, you want to be a chaplain? It wasn't anything intense. It was basically, if you're trying to do your duty, which I was, I didn't tell them about maybe how angry I was at God for all kinds of things, but they're like, great, okay, sure. Well, you gotta do a psychological evaluation, and the military made me do this as well, and I you can't have allergies. It's all kinds of stuff. I do these physical tests, which I just thought was a fun experiment. For me, I like social experiments where I get put in an awkward, uncomfortable place. I'm like, this is going to be a good story. No matter what happens, this will be either funny, traumatic, or it'll be hilarious. Like, I was with Marines, like, doing push-ups, and I don't know, I'm 37, 36, and I don't know why I'm doing this, but it's fun. And I had all these weird questions and things on my head to analyze psychological, if I had the makeup to be a chaplain or so, I don't know. And I was just having fun with it, to be honest. I wasn't really thinking, hey, God, this is it. Or I just like, whoa, another job. Let's apply. This seems interesting. And I believe I'd be good at it. Just because I loved one-on-one with my students. I would require all my BYU students they had to hang out with me for 30 minutes as one of their assignments with a faith-based question, like a struggle, or just, I love the conversation of religion, spirituality, faith struggle, or just their story. And so, or because I would teach them really difficult things about religion. Like, it wasn't like, hey guys, religion's amazing, and no one's ever made mistakes with religion, and well, crusades, well, that's in the past, or blacks priesthood, polygamy, don't worry about these, oh, whatever, or patriarchy, it was, no, I did not care about that. Like, look, let's have some, and I found that I was good at that one-on-one, good conversation, and anyway, I don't know where that tangent led to, but yeah, so did that, applied, the church says yes. And then funny enough, the Navy said no. And so I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. I got my other jobs. And then 6 months later, and this is what I find interesting. And so this is where there's a part of me that believes that maybe God was wanting me to do what I'm doing now. But so 6 months, the Navy said no. They're like, no, he's weird. I don't know. PhD or maybe there's some in the psychological evaluation that they're like, look, he's got head trauma. I don't know what's going on with this guy. He almost went to prison a few times. Maybe not the right, which is true, by the way, maybe not the right person to have in this position of importance. I don't know. But funny enough, 6 months later, around beginning of December, on my phone, it says unknown caller. And I never answer these because it's annoying, and I just don't want to deal with it. And Beth answers it, which she usually never, messes with my phone. She goes, "Oh, sweetheart, it's chaplain such and such. He wants to talk to you." I'm like, "Okay." So I get the phone. He's like, "Hey, Bryce, Dr. Taylor," because they're very, they like titles. And I was like, "Oh, thank you. Yeah, thanks. Dr. Taylor, I have a question for you." I'm like, "Oh, okay, yes, sir. I'm looking over your chaplain package, and I'm severely confused on why you at least didn't get an interview for this." And I go, "Oh, yeah, thanks. Great. I don't know. Yeah, me too, I guess. I don't know why." I'm used to rejection on jobs. Like, I don't know if he realized this. Like, this was just another thing for me that I applied to. And he goes, "Well, I'm going to reinsert your package, and how about I come out and interview you, and if you're still interested?" I go, "Sure. Why not? I didn't say it like that, but it was more like, oh, okay, yeah, well, great. We'll have a conversation. This will be fun. I like conversations, and chaplaincy is interesting, and it'd be a fun." So we interviewed, and it went well. And then there was another interview from a higher ranking chaplain, like an older one who I guess is in charge of vetting for the Navy. And he interviewed me, and that went well. And then you have to do what's called a care board interview at the Pentagon with all these military people. Again, I'm not military. I have no idea about the structure. I did a little research before. I knew it was going to be very serious, and I have to wear things like this. And that interview, so intimidated. It's basically like going in front of, like the movies. You see all these people with their uniforms and I don't know, all these ribbons on their chest and stuff. And I bombed that. I thought I bombed it. I mean, they're asking me all kinds of strange questions. I won't repeat them because I don't know if it's confidential or not. No idea. I was just responding. I'm pretty good at a good conversation, so I felt like at least we had a good conversation by the end of it. And I called Beth. She goes, "How was the interview?" I go, "By far the worst interview I've ever had. There's no chance that." But it was interesting, right? Hey, Pentagon, all these good. And then about a week later, I get a call from that first chaplain who called me. He goes, "Dr. Taylor, are you standing or sitting?" I go, "Standing, sir." He goes, "I'm going to need you to sit down." I said, "Yes, sir." So I sit down. And Eric, I'm trying not to giggle a little bit because I don't know how like serious these things can. I'm not military. Okay. So I sit down and he goes, "Well, they really want you to be a chaplain in the United States Navy. Congratulations. You have 90 days to decide. Let us know within 90 days if you want to do this or not." And we had a good conversation. He said, "Congratulations. And just give me a call and let me know." So I hung up the phone, and Beth's like, "What was that?" I was, the U.S. Navy wants me to be a chaplain, and they are giving me 90 days to decide. And that was a moment where I had to kind of put away that, the thought of, does God care about what I do professionally? Right? Does He care about that? I think for somebody like me who has a lot of passion with their profession, it was a good moment for me because I don't believe I can say that He doesn't care, because they denied me. And then 6 months, it's just kind of a unique story, I think. And so I said, so the answer was in a way like, "Thank you." And then 2 weeks later, Beth and I were like, "Yeah, let's do this." Even though we had a nice little house in Mapleton, and she felt like it was the right thing to do, and our family felt like it was right. And now I'm here in San Diego, Camp Pendleton, with crazy Marines that I love. So,
do you feel now that you're lost in your career, or do you think are you home?
No, I definitely feel like there's a home here. It's not for everybody, and I recognize this. Like that first story I told, this is a very challenging type of career. There's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of, "Hey, look, you're going out to sea tomorrow. Pack your bags. Right? You're going to be gone for 6 to 8 months." And so this is a real, boy, I'm going to be gone for 8 months away from my family, maybe, without good communication, like some phone on a ship where I can call maybe once every week or something. And so, yeah, it's not for everybody. But I think I'm uniquely, I don't know how to explain it. I think my narrative, my story, it translates well to these Marines who, I'm just as crazy as they are on certain levels, right? I mean, I do not as much as, I still do stupid stuff, but at their age, 20, 21, 19, 18, I mean, I'm able to laugh with them with some of their struggles, or like they're trying to grow up way too fast, some of them, and then also to navigate these heartbreaking events with them. And yeah, I think it just feels like I'm in the right space, and I'm going to keep doing it until, I always say I'm not completely wedded to a job. I'm wedded to my wife, and my family, and God. And so if there's something that shows up that's different, but right now, no, I'm all in, and I believe this is where God wants me to be. And I've already seen some of the fruits of just my personality and story that translate well to young people, to young, rough individuals. And I feel like it's a huge blessing to navigate some of these trials and struggles with them. And I think God's given me a lot of strength in it, because it's hard. It's some of the things, there's other stories I won't tell, very even more heartbreaking than the one I did share, that if God didn't buoy me up a little bit or a lot,
I think I know the answer to this question, but do you think all of your trials and unknowns and all those like refinements that you went through prepared you for this job specifically?
Yeah, and it's frustrating to say yes to that, because I was, like I said, angry. This is, in a lifespan in our cultural context in the United States, if you're not like something by age 30 or 27 or whatever it might be, it's the end of the world. And sadly, we don't have the idea of, let's say, reincarnation, where like, look, you got like 10,000 lifetimes to figure this out. And for some reason, you and I sometimes participate in more of an American or Western culture. Like, we got to have this done by 29. And if we don't, then we're a failure, or God's not with us. And so I felt that cultural pressure from the church community, from American community, right? Just how you and I have been, how we maybe think about what success looks like, or what it is. But now I really believe that, and I guess I had to believe that because I didn't get the jobs I wanted, but now I recognize that whether I'm 60 years old or 70 years old or 24 years old, to God, it doesn't matter, right? Every day to him is the same day. So he sees me as a little kid still, and I need to see that I am still a little child, and whether or not, and he might take me somewhere else, and we'll find out. But obviously I live a way more comfortable life in terms of food, shelter, being able to send my kids to basketball camp, right? Or whatever it might be. But yet my job is a very uncomfortable experience. And I think if I didn't have that discomfort for those years, the challenge, the anger, the sadness, and the joys, right? I don't think I would be as prepared for what I'm doing now. And that's the truth. And it's frustrating to look back and say, you and I, we have phone. We want everything immediately, and and now it's more of, I'm a very humbled, patient person. And luckily, and I'm being sincere when I say this, my unbelievable patience from my sweetheart, my wife, who had to deal with the patience and not being able to navigate this with we had kids, and that's the truth, and that's not easy. But we always believed that if there was love in the home, the kids would be all right.
Yeah.
And we always had that, and that's the truth. That the kids don't care where we live. Now that they're getting older, they do, but when they're little, it's just like, oh, cool, we have like one little room we're sleeping in together. Oh, yeah,
your wife is fantastic. She's incredible. Yeah. I want to end with you sharing what you would say either to your younger self going through this, or someone going through career uncertainty, trying to find jobs, not knowing if God cares about them. What would you, if you could put your arm around them, what would you say to them?
This may be cliche, but my heart breaks for you. My heart goes out to you. I do believe that God will save you, and maybe not financially, but he'll save you in this moment. I'm a believer that everybody goes to heaven, right? That Jesus' atonement and everything else that he showed me through how he lived and what he taught has convinced me that, he'll be saved. today's moment, that the kingdom of God is within you. It may not be a building, it may not be a job, but that access to that kingdom within you is there. And I do hope it translates, especially those of you who, like me, have children, who have a lot of responsibility financially, that does translate into a career or a job that you feel confident in, and you feel that you can pay the bills. But I still believe that, even when I was angry for that year with God, right, that I was still loyal. And that I made mistakes. I committed sins. I distanced myself, things like that. But at the end of the day, I can honestly say to God that I did what I was supposed to do. I love my wife. I love my kids. I still worked. I tried my best with the talents that God gave me, and that I found that kingdom within me. And I started, instead of asking God for something from heaven, like a cosmic vending machine or whatever you want to call it, I started just doing something that I still do, that continues to help me, that wasn't easy to do. After that year of anger and frustration, I started just meditating on gratitude, and that was it. That's what I did. And started just thinking about all the things I'm grateful for. And thoughts would show up in my head about Mrs. Baker, my second grade teacher, who helped me read. And I'd tell God, thank you for her. And thoughts like, thank you for the patience of Mr. Barksdale, who I was the worst choir student. All I tried to do was destroy everything he wanted to do in that class, like make a great choral performance for those poor parents who put their kids in the choir. And my whole mission was to make this hilarious and terrible. And that man still had patience and love for me, right? And so those thoughts started showing up as I kept diving deep into gratitude prayers. And for the last 4 years, that's how I pray. And I don't ask, I ask God for people. If they ask me, hey, chaplain, could you, or even Beth, hey, could you pray, maybe Smith's sick, or, but my own individual prayers is and it might shift to new types of praying. But I'm in that mindset now, and sunsets are a little prettier, food tastes a little bit better. Even in the midst of joy and sorrows, I believe, like Albert Camus, the great French philosopher, poet, writer, he said, within you is an invincible summer. And that makes me happy. And even though he had tough time, struggle, he found that within him. And the gratitude stuff for me has worked very well. And that's what I'd say. I think that's the best I got right now. But my heart breaks for you, and know that there's human beings. Don't isolate yourself, that love you. And, ask for help if you need it. And I did a few times. And what was beautiful about that was people showed up. And it wasn't a payday loan place. It was some good Christians that I won't mention, or just, hey, fill out this paperwork, or, little things that would show up. And I got humbled enough to ask for some help sometimes. And that was good. People are good. People are really good.
Well, Bryce,
that's all I got.
Bryce, you're one of the best. So thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome.
One of my best friends. I love you, and I know this will help.
Me too. Yeah. And I'm glad that we didn't have to dive into past transgressions. So thank you for...
That's for my other podcast.